Hello everyone, in this video I'll be looking in some depth at Ketu or the South Node in the 3rd house of your chart and Rahu or the North Node in the 9th house. I will also be giving some information about how the Dasha periods will pan out if you have these placements. Let's go. Now, this axis of Ketu 3rd, Rahu 9th is rather difficult to get a correct interpretation for, because often people will tell you Rahu is really good here, Ketu is good here, and they are misplaced in some way, and that churns up your mind in a negative way. There are some things that you need to understand about Rahu 9th house that can be difficult, and I'll be coming to those. But on the whole, in this day and age, I would interpret this, and I've seen this work so many times, that this is the 3rd house of your mind and your conditioning. You have to understand the 3rd house is your day-to-day behavior in the world, and that is all conditioned. And this is the house of getting free from that. And often we think that to get free from that, you have to go into foreign cultures or to higher mind religions and so on. And that's exactly what it's all about in a deep way. But here's the secret to it all. Ketu is that nasty past life conditioning which is keeping you stuck. And in this incarnation, this axis has a very fortunate aspect, and this is what it is. You have the chance in this lifetime to let go of a whole pile of baggage here and move towards a much happier understanding of the world and experience of the world if you go with this challenge. So let's see how it's going to pan out, and particularly focusing first of all on Ketu in your 3rd house. So we have Ketu in your 3rd house, specific karmas related to communication, siblings, cousins, travel, and particularly to your ego in the world are very strong. So here's the thing. Ketu brings your past karmas, and this house is a particular house of your memory. You have a very strong memory actually for your past lives. If you really want to access it, you have access to it with this Ketu. You have had past lives of intense involvement with myriads amounts of people in a very complicated way. This Ketu gives for complicated relationships. I've seen that a lot. It's not just spouse, it's all your relationships, friendship circles, society, work colleagues. All these sort of relationships become very complicated with this Ketu. What does that mean? It means that, and this is the secret I found about this that you mightn't have heard before, you are not truly yourself in your relationships. You are hiding some of the higher aspects of yourself, not in any deliberate way, but you have been very adept at dealing with so many different peoples and complications in your past incarnations, and you are very knowledgeable and very much able to disguise how you're feeling to please other people, that you are often not able to be truly yourself when you're dealing with other people. I've seen this. But you are a very strong communicator. Sometimes you just come out with things without even thinking, because Ketu is our default mechanism. Ketu doesn't care for what people think. So you're in a difficult situation here. 3rd house, very skillful, very concerned about pleasing people. Ketu doesn't give a hoot about that. Ketu just wants to get to the truth. So sometimes, although the 2nd house is your speech, how your speech influences people is the 3rd house. Your speech can sometimes be not very clear. in terms of you don't make your ideas clear and you don't communicate. And you are aware of this. You have an obsession about everything you say to other people. I'm sure you will recognize this, how you go over and over in your head every conversation which you've had to people, because you have to be sure that you've been really understood, because you have the feeling from your past lives that if you are not understood, it can become dangerous. That's your flag, that's your default mechanism. You have this memory of there being dangers from misunderstood communication. Therefore, you have this real need to be understood, and it can make you a bit obsessive with that. Now, the biggest thing I've seen here with people with this is an absolute obsession with information, knowledge. You love learning, you love knowledge. From a very early age, you are a knowledge junkie. You want knowledge from every sphere, every area of life. There is no end to your curiosity, no end to your ability to absorb knowledge. You study well, you do very well in school, you're a very good student, but school knowledge doesn't interest you as much as your knowledge which you get outside of school. So if you've been given some books to read in school, you take it further. You want to read more books by those people. Do you get it? You want to go well beyond those particular school boundaries. That's because you have an insatiable thirst from your past life for more and more knowledge. But here's the thing, it's not your karma in this life. And you will end up as an older person surrounded by, depending when you were born, loads and loads of books that you no longer need but you just can't get rid of. That's a strong indicator of a strongly placed Ketu in your third house. Of course, if you're the younger generation, you've got an easier thing there because you might be into books as much because the internet is there with absolute store of knowledge. So on the negative side, you find it hard to put down your tablet, hard to put down the computer, hard to stop searching, going round and round in circles, storing knowledge and then never really getting back to it. It can be a negative circle. But here's the thing, you are talented with knowledge and you enjoy education and you may become a teacher because you love to give out that knowledge. But here's the most important point. Knowledge itself, just in itself, will not fulfill you in this lifetime because you have to go to the ninth house of higher knowledge, which is not accessible simply from the internet, simply from books. Because in a way, this knowledge is so intense and so secret that it can be only understood in your heart. It's the heart knowledge, which is why the ninth house aspects the fifth house here of the heart. I'll be coming to that soon. All this knowledge, all this communication and skill with dealing with people, you're very good at it. It doesn't satisfy you. And of course, short distance travel from a very early age, often with this Ketu, you become on the move. I've often seen that you may be born on the move, e.g. the mother may be travelling when she gives birth to you, or you are moving very soon after birth, you're on that train, on that plane. So many people who are born on a plane, born in a car, born in a travelling situation, all sorts of indications of this particular Ketu. And it's coming from your past lives. Now let me talk about past lives here. It's very important because Ketu is your memory. And the third house specifically relates to your memory of past lives as well as this Ketu. So in a way, you can become obsessed very early on with your past lives and you have a sort of insatiable curiosity about reincarnation as well. It's all to the good as long as you let it take you here. What you should be concerned with is how to resolve the karmas rather than all the curiosity about what it was like in this century or that century. Because also Ketu gives a very strong attraction to history. And that's the same for no matter where Ketu is. Ketu is the past and Ketu is absolutely history. So you love to study history and philosophy, but particularly history. And again, it's all about finding out who you are, where you came from. You have a strong need to be around other people. But the funny thing is, as I've indicated, these relationships become very complicated because you are very often misunderstood by other people. But you are very, very, how can I put it? Very, very adept at entertaining other people. You can become a comedian. You're very funny. You're very witty. And your sense of humour is very, very sort of likable by other people. And people like that about you. And so you easily make friends and you easily communicate to people. But as I say, finding people who are on your wavelength and really understand you becomes very, very difficult for you sometimes, okay? And that's because you're often wrapped in your little world of information processing. It's because you are in your head, as it were, all the time. You know, people are always in their head, working things out in their head, trying to interpret things around them all the time. Okay, that's you. You are very often so much in your head, even though you're surrounded by people, you're not fully present. You're not fully present. You've got to think about that. You're not fully present. It's not a negative thing. It's because you're in your head working things out, making all of these connections, okay? But you're very intelligent, very intuitive, and this knowledge from your past life, you find this need to find it out again. Okay, you find this need to find out this knowledge. And it's not just necessarily like astrology knowledge. It obviously is if you're listening to this video. But you've obviously got loads of other knowledge there which you are keen to access from a very early age. But here's the last and final point that's very important, okay? Despite all of your talents, all of your humor, all of your sparkling personality, you have some particular karmas you have to work out. The first is with siblings. There will definitely be sibling karma here. And I've often seen it's a loss around siblings, that there is some lack of communication, some lack of understanding that severely affects your relationship with your siblings. Your desire to get near to your siblings is thwarted in some way, very often due to misunderstanding. It can also be because there are secrets in relation to your siblings. There may be, like a sibling who you never knew that you had until later in life, very often found there. Or it may be that there is just a sudden break and a complete lack of communication for a long time with a sibling. But there is some loss connected there. Not just your siblings, also the cousins around you too, the very immediate family, okay? Because you want the closeness, but often you aren't able to get it. That's the point. That's a particular karma there, okay? And often, who are these siblings? I'm going to dare to stretch it. They may be relationship people from your last life. So it doesn't really, it doesn't really matter in the end. You're having to deal with them now. But you've had the complication in your relationships, the complicated in your society relationships, and it's now coming back to you in the people around you, particularly siblings and your cousins. So that's some of that karma. What are you doing in this lifetime with all this talent you've got? As I say, you're an information junkie. Where are you going with all this store of knowledge? That's the point. In this life, it won't fully satisfy your soul to be collecting more and more books, more and more knowledge, more and more skills. Your real satisfaction comes from the ninth house. So let's go there. So when you have Rahu in the ninth house of your chart, there are 3 or 4 areas that we absolutely need to focus on. First of all, foreign cultures and foreign philosophies or new religions will be essential to your whole development. What's going on is, from a very early age, you are attracted to completely new philosophies, and these will be completely different to the ones of your early childhood religion. And you are compulsively searching, reading, listening, trying to find a new philosophy that will satisfy you. But here's the thing. With this particular Rahu, you are very unlikely to find one philosophy, one religion that totally fulfills your soul's needs. Why is that? Well, that's because Rahu is never satisfied. Rahu is always searching. Rahu doesn't like to take advice either. So because Rahu is always dissatisfied and doesn't like to take advice, you find it hard to fully commit to just that one philosophy, one religion. But it's not a bad thing in this lifetime. That's your destiny, because Rahu is taking in the information, is taking in the truth, if you like, the philosophical truth from wherever he can find it, and it's making sense to your soul. Okay, so you gain a continual satisfaction from this search for truth, and this is absolutely your destiny. Okay. On the negative side, you may have to contend with at least one false guru, and that's because Rahu also indicates that which is false. But because Rahu is always searching and never satisfied, it won't really bother you. Even if you do go down a false trail following someone who lets you down in some way, who is not what they seem, you will get over that very, very quickly, and you will just move on with your search. Okay, because ultimately you're very independent in your philosophical views, and you are here to overcome your absolute lower mind sort of bondage, okay, which you've had, as I've just been discussing with this particular Ketu, for many lifetimes. And you are moving away from those absolutely entangled relationships into freedom, because the ninth house is also about freedom of philosophical belief. Okay? And you become very tied to your beliefs. It doesn't really matter if you believe in God or not, actually. Even if you didn't believe in God, you would be a very creative atheist, if you know what I mean. Either way, Rahu, though, is looking for the answers, and they will look anywhere to find the answers to our existence in this life. And that's a great way to actually spend your life, isn't it? Because that's the whole purpose of human birth, is to find out the answers. But here's the other problem. It will create a conflict with your early environment, and you are going to have to at some point sacrifice some of the elements and some of the comforts of the early environment to find your place in the sun, if you like. Physically too, very often with this Rahu, you just move away from your early environment to live in foreign lands. And foreign lands are very fortunate for you in every respect, okay? Because you get your new identity, the first house, and you may even have children abroad. That is often found as well. And your philosophy also creates a bit of a conflict sometimes with your children, and that's because your identity is so tied up with your philosophical beliefs, strongly tied up. Okay, so it's a very good Rahu. It's a purposeful Rahu, searching for philosophy, searching for truth. The final thing, though, to mention is that this particular placement may have an effect on your father and on your relationship with your father also. There can be a million scenarios, okay, depending on where Rahu's ruler has gone, the ruler of this sign has gone and also you would need to look in the D12 chart and different Varga charts. However, on the whole, this particular, Rahu leads to some sense of loss in regard to your father. There can be some really big misunderstandings, okay, between you and your father, or there can be separation from the father. Okay, so it's a very positive placement, although it really does need you to be independent, searching, and not afraid of really going it alone. And you will not be understood by your siblings, that's absolutely for sure. And you will not be understood by the people from your early environment, but this is your destiny and you have to fulfill it. So now let's go on to look at what's going to happen during the Dasha periods of these two shadow grahas. Let's begin with Ketu. So when you go into Ketu Dasha and you have Ketu in your third house, expect a very busy time. Expect a time of multitude of new people, new contacts, new individuals coming into your life, some of whom may be a new relationship and certainly friendships. But with the relationship aspect, it is going to be a bit troublesome. Why is that? Well, that's because K2 here represents, as I've been talking about, those complications and networks that have held you back in your past life. So don't think, oh, anybody new in my life now is negative to me. Not necessarily. They are here to help you resolve these karmas, and you have to go, you have to go with this. But here's the problem. K2 really makes you dissatisfied with your relationships and your friendships. You are seeking newer relationships, newer friendships, newer associations and actually new sort of goals in life, and you find that you are always jumping from one thing to the next, or far more likely people keep on coming into your life and then disappearing from your life all through this 7-year period. It's constantly shifting, constantly changing. It's like sand that is really going from underneath you all the time. You can't find stability in this third house Ketu Dasha, but you're not supposed to. That's because your aim has always been for Rahu. And if you've already been through the Rahu period, and then you're going to have a Ketu period, yeah, and that depends, okay, where your moon is and when you had your Rahu Dasha, then it's going to be a very destabilizing time for you. But hold on tight, okay, because some of the people who come into your life might be useful for you, helping you to stay within this Rahu 9th house boundary, okay? But if this is happening earlier on in life and you've not yet had the Rahu Dasha, expect that you are finishing off these past karmas, that all the new relationships, all the friendships, all the new associations and the multitude of individuals around you are not really meant to be with you that long. But don't take it negatively if it is a relationship, because don't forget, Ketu Dasha is never the best Dasha to start a new relationship in. That's a general thing about it, okay? It's a finishing off of your past karmas, because wherever Ketu is, he will have your past karmas there. He will have that particular portion of that past karma which you have to fulfill. And therefore, whatever you get into, whatever you do in this particular Dasha, it's particular for this particular Ketu that it is slightly stressful for you, because you don't know where you stand. All these new people in your life are not really on your wavelength for this lifetime. And if you really think about it, that will become very obvious. Secondly, sibling issues will absolutely come to the fore. And this may include a loss of a sibling, or the moving away of a sibling, or that you become separated mentally and physically from a sibling. It's all a particular karma which you have to go with. So, summarizing then, it's a shifting dasha, a busy dasha with so many new individuals in your life that all of them don't seem to slot in properly, but they do slot in from your past complicated karmas, as I've been talking about. But it's hard to hold on to them, and it's hard to make them work for you in this lifetime. It is just resolving those particular karmas. Okay, now let's move on to the Rahu Dasha. So when you go into Rahu Dasha in your ninth house, you have a very favorable time, but there are some things you have to watch out for. What is it favorable for? Really getting to grips with a philosophy, a religious belief system that is meaningful to you and gives you real satisfaction. So first house, fifth house, soul level satisfaction. But you have to stick with it. And actually, Rahu will do anything he has to do to make you keep yourself focused in this way, because that is your destiny in this. Absolutely, this is your destiny in this Rahu Dasha. So you have to go along with it. You may keep on pulling back, wishing you didn't have to sacrifice your old way of life, but you do. And sometime during this particular 18-year period, you will have to make that final split from the old environment and the old situation. So very often there's a move. There's a move, and it's far away from where you were before, very often happening. Okay, foreigners may be coming into your life. Okay, new connections with individuals from completely different cultures is absolutely shown too. Your sense of self will change dramatically in this 18-year period. It will be like the person you were at the beginning of the dasha is not the person you are at the end of the dasha. And especially say, well, that's true for anybody. 18 years is a long time. But this will be dramatic in that, really, if you absolutely go with the flow of this Rahu, you have a chance to remake your life. Okay, so moving abroad, favorable for you. New connections, foreigners if you like, new cultures, favorable for you. And in a way, the ninth house is also the house of journalism. I didn't really bring that in before, but as a career, it really means that anything where you are involved with a media, third house, but in a larger multicultural context. So, journalism, writing, media, the internet, anything about sort of contacting or even teaching people in a foreign culture is enormously, absolutely beneficial in this ninth house Rahu Dasha. Children will become important to you in some way, and there may be problems with a child, or maybe even with having a child, okay, depending on the other grahas and signs involved. A lot more detail needed there, but children in some way, or just younger people, and maybe educating younger people, will also become very important in this Rahu Mahadasha to you. So it's a favorable time, but you have to take a leap of faith. That's the thing. You have to go with the flow, because Rahu is the future. Rahu is always the future, no matter where he is in the chart. He represents what we are a little bit scared of, because most people don't like change, and Rahu Dasha always brings change. Okay, so for you though, it's about a leap of faith. It's about believing in yourself and believing in your belief system. Okay, believing that these philosophies are feeding your true sense of soul, who you are. Okay, the Atma, who you are. And if you have any, as an extra here, if you have any connection whatsoever with the sun here and Rahu, okay, which is the soul, if you like, that is very important. Or, with the soul significator, okay? So that's the Atma Karaka planet, that's the highest degree planet. If they are the sun again, or the Atma Karaka, in any way connected to Rahu, e.g. being here or here, then it's a major transformation in your belief system that you are destined to have, and it's really good for you. You really have to not listen to your siblings. You have to not listen to people around you who try to drag you back into the past. You must go with the future flow of Rahu in this very favorable Mahadasha. Okay, I hope that was very useful for you all. Starting out again, so sub to my channel, and the last and final video in this series will be up soon, and that will be Rahu in the very mysterious 8th house and Ketu in the 2nd house. Okay, goodbye for now.